Allow me just to weigh in on the Safaricom sale, the purported public participation that is going on, which is, of course, choreographed, and the impact of the sale to the question of our sovereignty. I remember I am one of those guys who raised that question as to whether or not it is proper for us to offload the majority of the shareholding to a foreign entity, noting the significant role Safaricom plays in our democracy. Granted the fact that in the integrated electronic system, the IBC has a serious relationship with Safaricom, especially the question of the transmission of the presidential results, which are ordinarily perceived as the peak of our democracy and the ability of the peoples to exercise their sovereignty. So the question then is the question of the safety. Besides that, Safaricom also plays host to the integrated security systems. And you remember His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta did launch that project. So the question that comes to our mind is the question of or the security of our territorial sovereignty and our territorial integrity. What will be the fate of our territorial integrity in the event the shareholding is offloaded? Remember, the reason why we have trust in Safaricom to host our election data and our security data is because government has a significant shareholding in it. And therefore, the assumption is that the government is holding these shares in trust of Kenyans, and therefore that the government is having an eye on it. So the reduction of the government shares ordinarily will mean that it will lose a significant stakeholding in Safaricom, and that will put the question of the trust that Kenyans have in it, that is a trusteeship Kenyans have in Safaricom and its fate. It's suffice to note that a petition has equally been filed before the Kirogoya court, raising similar issues, but of course also going to the question of whether or not Safaricom needs to be cleared by the CBK, noting that Safaricom is not just a communication entity. It also operates a large, and I think one of the largest mobile banking in maybe south of Sahara. So the question is, when it comes to an entity like Safaricom, hosting over 30 million subscribers who are also bankers with it, the question is, what will be the integrity of our banking systems, and whether or not, when the government fails to have an eye in it, because we'll just become spectators, and the majority shareholding will have the say in the company, in the event where the company decides to be used in transnational crimes like terrorism, like money laundering, what becomes of of us when we offload these? And the other thing is conflict. That Vodafone itself is a shareholder and a director and holds directorship status in Safaricom. But in law, we actually do not call it as a conflict of interest. We call it insider trading. And insider trading is whereby an individual in a company like Vodafone is conferred with exceptional information that catapults it to a more advantageous position than others, that when shares are being sold, they're able to negotiate from the insider perspective, and they take advantage of the information that we have. In company law, one of the offenses that even our Company Act 2015 flags out is that question of insider trading, that a company and its directors are actually stopped from initiating insider trading. And that is exactly what is happening. And a contract that is premised on insider trading itself is a contract that we say is all in law is against public policy. A contract that's against public policy is an unenforceable contract, is a void contract. You cannot enforce it. So the question is, is there insider trading, and has that been disclosed by the person who is purporting to purchase these shares? And if that has not happened, and even if there were to be disclosure, the disclosure does not cure the question of insider trading. What will be the legal fate of that contract between Vodafone and Safaricom vis-a-vis the question of the insider trading? Those are some of the very pertinent issues that I have not heard many people address them. We are only looking at the value of Safaricom shares, but we are not looking at the impact. I have not even heard the Committee on Security coming to give the security analysis, the analytical aspect of Safaricom, and us offloading these shares to a foreigner. Vis-a-vis the issue that I raised about the territorial sovereignty and the territorial integrity. How will it impact on our territorial integrity? How secure shall we be? Shall we be opening ourselves to transnational crimes like money laundering and narcotism and terrorism? Who shall be our voice? Remember, what will happen is if government loses the majority of the shareholding, it will equally lose the voice it has in Safaricom. To the extent that should government want to perhaps sue Safaricom in the future, they cannot just directly go and do it. They have to do what is called the derivative suit. They have to go and seek leave or seek the permission of court for them to sue Safaricom. Even if Safaricom will be initiating and committing a crime, they will not say that we are government, we have this number of the shareholding still remaining, therefore we can intervene. They'll have to follow the due process as laid down and laid out in the Companies Act, where the minority shareholders, if they are aggrieved by the actions of the majority shareholders, must seek leave of the court for them to challenge that decision by Safaricom. The other question is, if Safaricom decides that they're not going to host our election data, be it the biometrical data, be it the voters transmission system, what shall happen? And where shall we be left, and how shall we manage that challenge? So Safaricom is an important national infrastructure that ought to be looked at and analyzed with a deeper eye, more than just than that of a commercial transaction. The commercial transaction aspect, you look at the value of the shares. But we also need to go deeper and ask ourselves, what impact will that sale have vis-a-vis our sovereignty and our territory?